Joining the show today is one of us by way of the Edmonton Oilers trading back in the 2021 NHL draft for the Minnesota Wild's 22nd and 90th picks, ultimately landing Judd Brackett the 20th overall pick and the right to select goalie of the future, Jesper Wallstedt. Jesper, thanks for jumping on.
Yeah, thank you for having me, guys.
Tell me, you got to criticize me here. Did I pronounce that good?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's pronounced Jesper Wallstedt, but over in the States it's a lot harder. So I usually go by Jesper Wallstedt. It's easier.
Jesper Wallstedt. I can do that. All right, we're good. First question that we ask everybody on here, Jesper. Minnesota Wild logo. I'm not sure how familiar you were with the Wild, prior to being drafted. I know you follow the NHL, and there's some Swedes here, so you're probably at least somewhat familiar. People debate pretty heavily what the logo actually is. What did you think it was the first time you saw it?
Like the face of a bear.
Yeah,
is what I thought. With a little river in the mouth and like the sun up there in the top, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty general consensus, but like it's once or twice a year, man, that it even just happened the other week with a former NHLer, Jordan Schmaltz, like posting on Twitter, like, oh my God, did you guys know the Wild logo is a bear? Like, what?
Yeah, that was what I thought when I got drafted, at least.
Well, as you saw, our podcast is called Fellowship of the Rink, a stick tap to the Lord of the Rings. Are you a Lord of the Rings fan at all, by chance?
Not really. I've been trying to get into more and more movies, and I think last summer I watched the Hobbit movies, and that was kind of my start to get into it. But haven't really yet got to the Lord of the Rings. But I'm sure I'll get there one day. We have so much time to watch movies and shows and everything, so I'm definitely watching it sometime.
Well, what's your kind of like quote unquote nerd itch, or what's your kind of off ice thing that be a little bit of weird, I guess? Do you have a book series you like? Do you have certain movies or a TV show you like, or do you collect stuff? I know you're a video gamer, so that's one thing that's part of your thing. But like, what's your kind of your nerddom there? So
I think I've always been a hockey nerd overall. Like I love everything in and around hockey, and obviously I play a lot of video games. I enjoy following Counter-Strike Global Offensive, which is the game I play, and I follow the Swedish team there called Ninjas in Pyjamas, which I've done since I was young. I love soccer. I follow Man United. It's my team, and that's basically it. Just started to get into the NFL as well, so watch some American football as well, and follow the Vikings, obviously. So a little bit of everything. I like to keep my days occupied with sports or other stuff and things to do.
I talked to you a while back, and you had mentioned something about playing video games with some of the Wild players like Gustavsson and maybe Kirill, and like you're a rookie, so you're trying to get in on the games, right? So what game is that you guys played, and did they let you in finally to play against them kind of virtually?
Yeah, no, that's Counter-Strike, the team or the game I play, and finally this preseason and during camp, me, Gus, and Broads have played a lot, and a little bit with Marat and Kirill as well. So finally got a spot for a while at least, but ever since I got sent down, it hasn't been a lot of video games since then.
Who's the best gamer of all the group in that game? Who's the best in the Wild that you've put up against?
I'd say I'm the best. Obviously, I got to, but Gus is pretty good too. He knows his game, and I'll say down here Ryan O'Rourke is pretty good as well.
Okay, and who's the Mark? Who's the guy that everyone's like beating every time?
Oh, that I can't say that. Can't give that away. We could always give good credits, but I'm not going to throw anyone.
That means that there's definitely an answer, though. There is someone who's clearly the answer if you won't answer it. So that's okay. We can work with that.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I love that. All right, Jesper, tell me the generalization out there that everyone places on goalies that you guys are all just kind of weird. Is that fair and well-founded, or is that a bit of a misconception?
Yeah, I guess that could be fair. I think we overall just have our own interests, and uh, I just think that the way the role is played, we're kind of like our own team within the team. We have so much pressure on us, and we can either win or lose a game by ourselves, and uh, we just have that much pressure on us. I'd say that we have to be a little bit weird. We have to do our superstitions to uh, stay hot, and we just have our own things that keeps us in our bubble, kind of to perform, I'd say. And then that maybe comes with a couple of weird interests and other stuff outside as well. But that's a side note.
So what are some of your superstitions?
I'd say I'm one of the lesser the goalies that have a little bit less superstitions and so
You're
on.
the
I
normal
kind of yeah, I'd like to say, if you ask someone else, they'd probably say I'm not, but no, I'd like to keep everything the same. It's pretty simple. If anything happens that isn't supposed to happen, that's fine. I'm not. I'd say I'm more of a guy that has a lot of routines, but not superstitious really. If anything doesn't go my way, then that's fine. I'll figure it out and do something else instead. So, but I like, especially off ice, I like to keep my my days pretty similar, and I'd like to stay within my routine.
Like, I got to spend some time with you in Iowa last year, and obviously you've been in North America for a few years now. What's the biggest adjustment to North American life? Like, what was the biggest kind of shock for you? Was it the food? Was it kind of TV? Was it just anything else? Like, obviously, a lot of guys who were from Sweden learned English language pretty early on from school, but like, what was the biggest adjustment, I think, North American life, like off the ice?
Just a lot of small stuff outside. Just for once, the tip in outside could be one thing. Like, we never tip in Sweden. Over here, the tipping culture is a lot different from what I'm used to. All small things like that you probably don't really think about, but when you come from another country that we aren't used to it just adds up. I wouldn't say it makes it harder or makes it difficult. It's just something you're like, okay, you're noticing all the small things, and you kind of just think about it, and like, oh, they're doing it this way or that way, and you aren't really used to it. But overall, I felt like the transition was pretty smooth, and I've really enjoyed my time over here.
Okay. Tell me then, going back to Sweden, what makes a good or bad Swedish meatball?
It's gotta be homemade and by your own parents or grandparents. That's what makes it good. Whatever you grew up on, it's what makes it good. It's hard to try to copy the recipe. Even if you have the same recipe, it's just that love they put into it when they make them makes them good.
Can you make a good Swedish meatball?
I wouldn't say so. I'd make an all right one, but no, my parents and so on definitely makes better.
Watched that Becoming Wild episode on you, and I know your mom was bummed you moved out, got your own place. But like, what's the biggest thing you miss from being home? What's the biggest thing if you're in Iowa or St. Paul? Like, what are things you miss about your hometown? Like a place or a restaurant or like a thing your mom does or whatever. Like, what's your thing you miss the most about being home?
I would say obviously it's the family. Just knowing, like, when I lived at home, my dad was always there on every practice, every game. He was there all the time, and you have their support, but when you're home and you see that every day, you miss that sometimes. And obviously you miss just being around your parents, being able to go home for a little bit and just hang out with them. I miss my dog back home. I miss all my friends that live there, and I meet every summer. But I'd say overall it's just the people that are there, and the ones you have relations with that you can't really see for 8 months is definitely the hardest part to leave when you go over for training camp every year.
Your dad obviously was a goaltender, so your brother, I know you're close with. Like, was that something you always felt you'd be a goalie, or was there ever a time where you're like, hey, I got a pretty good shot, I can play forward here? Like, what was your transition into that position?
No, I think I think I've always wanted to be a goalie and a defenseman. Those were the two I try to be up until I'd say around 12 years old, and around that time it came down to, okay, you can't really play both anymore. And I know my brother and my father was pushing me to become a defenseman, because they're like, okay, we have two goalies, it's enough. Like, just get a player here instead. We want to see someone that can score goals or something. But I just told them straight up, I'm gonna be a goalie, and I think that turned out pretty good. So, but I really enjoy still going out shooting a little bit, and putting on the player skates and go out on the ice. I think it's super fun still.
I remember your debut in Dallas. It was TNT broadcast, and Henrik Lundqvist was on the panel there. And I know you grew up watching him and kind of idolizing him. Do you remember the experience at the goalie camp you went to? What do you remember the most like vivid thing you can think of like what struck you kind of about, getting the chance to meet him, take a picture with him?
I just think everything about his personality is something you can't take for granted for a goalie that is that big, and an idol for a lot of young guys in Sweden. He's such a great guy, and just has his own camp. He meets probably 40, 50 goalies, young goalies every summer, and he's just super nice, takes his time with everyone, signs stuff, and I think he just makes a lot of young Swedish kids want to be a goalie. Just the way he treats everyone when he has those meetings, and when you get to go to his camp and meet him.
Are you an uncle now? Does your brother have a baby, right? Is that right?
Yeah, he has two now. So yeah, I'm an uncle, which is pretty surreal.
What's your favorite uncle activity?
I have unfortunately, because I'm away for so many months, I don't see them that much. So whenever I'm home and they come over, I enjoy just playing with them. They're still very young. I think one's just a couple months, and one's closing on 2, I think. So they're still very young, but just being around them and seeing them, and also just seeing my brother as a dad, it feels weird sometimes. You're like, oh, you and I were the ones who played on the streets, and you were chasing me with radio cars, just driving after me, and we were just playing and everything. And now you're a dad with a kid, and it's super surreal to see that, and super fun.
So are you going to be the cool uncle who like just sends gifts from afar, and then whenever you come back, you're the hero? Especially after
I hope so.
One new contract you signed this summer. Congrats, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that's the plan. Maybe talk with Bauer and try to set up some goalie gear to get him going as well. So no, but it's super fun, and obviously we want to give back to as much as possible to them as well.
For sure. But talk a little bit about your draft experience. First, just going into this, right? That you talk to a lot of teams, right? Go through the interviews. What were conversations like with Judd and Billy prior to draft day?
I only had one conversation with Minnesota, and it was probably early August, October, something. And I didn't think much about it. I was very surprised when it happened, and even talking with Bacher and Brad and stuff afterwards, I'm like, how we barely even spoke before the draft, and this happened, and they're like, okay, we didn't think you were gonna be there, and we had to make a move kind of, and I was like, okay, well, super fun, but I didn't see it coming for sure. But it was awesome. I loved the draft. It was very hectic, but such a cool experience. Just talking to all different people, and I think you learned a lot I think you learned a lot about yourself during that time, just reflecting, and so many people with so many different questions that you don't even have answers to, but you kind of just got to come up with something on the spot. And
Sure.
I think I found a new picture about myself, kind of going through that experience, and definitely make you mature a little bit.
Yeah. Did you think that you'd be there for the Wild? Like, was your expectation that like you had a great conversation with the team that picked before the 20 spot that you were kind of surprised didn't take you, or did you think that you were going to fall out of the first round? Like, what was the mindset?
Oh, I can't remember now, but my goal was always to be the firstborn Swedish goalie to go in the first round. That was my goal going into my draft year, and my feeling was good going into the draft. I felt like that was a big chance that could happen. But then, obviously, when you sit there and the draft is at 2 a.m. Swedish time, and I think I got drafted around 6:30 a.m. And that was the 20th pick, and you sit there and you go on and you're like, okay, it's probably not going to happen. Like, just lower your expectations, get back here for day 2, and hopefully you can get drafted in the second round maybe. And then that trade happened, and such a cool presentation with like the way they drafted me as well, with like I can't remember, but with the kids there and so on. It was just such a cool way that it happened, and it felt super special. So I was very honored with the way it happened as well.
This interview is brought to you by our friends at Waggle Golf. Waggle Golf believes what you wear on the course should reflect your individuality, who you are, where you're from, your hobbies, interests, and passions. All the stuff that makes you, well, you. That's why every design is inspired by the desire to create a piece of apparel that strikes a chord when you see it, that makes you say, wow, that was made for me. Because in a lot of ways, it was. Ready to get your Waggle on? Go to getyourwaggleon.com, throw in promo code SP10 at checkout to take 10% off your entire order.
Obviously, a dream is to be drafted. Another dream is to make your debut, and you got a chance to play last year a few games. I know you mentioned you played, felt a lot better about yourself after that first Dallas game. You know, you played Chicago, got a win there. Going into the season, I think Guerin and them told everybody here, like, hey, we have a 3 goalie rotation. Like, you know, I was wondering, what were you told going into the season? Like, obviously you have a place there, right? Minnesota. So you probably thought you'd be there a little more, or like, what was kind of your expectation going into the year of what it might look like?
Yeah, basically what's been told outside is basically what I've heard too. I was told there was going to be a 3 goalie rotation, and that was probably the plan as well. But obviously with injuries and everything, as well as we spoke when I was up there, that an injury can happen, and the cap space isn't there. There isn't enough for all of us. Like we can make magic with this, and unfortunately for me, that was it was my time to go. We just couldn't find a good fit, and I was in and out, called up and called down, and wasn't practicing, or I had to practice on my own to kind of just figure it out, and it just wasn't sustainable for that time when I was up there. And obviously a better choice is to go down and play a lot of games with Iowa and get that quality practice and just getting back to the routine again. And that's where we're at. And obviously I want to get up there as fast as possible again. I want to come up and play games, and personally I think I could. So I want to prove that as well. So I'm just putting in the everyday work to try to make sure when that call happens, and I'm gonna be in as good of a position as possible.
So like when you get sent down, like obviously there's probably just obvious general disappointment, probably, you know, like was there kind of a way you need to kind of settle back into Iowa? You know, I think the first couple of starts probably weren't your best, but like you rounded out your form and you played well the last couple of ones. Like, was there an adjustment period going back to Iowa after kind of mentally thinking yourself, hey, I'm here, I'm going to be here for a while and kind of part of this thing?
Yeah, I think definitely the first 2 games in San Jose, I think mentally I maybe wasn't in the best spot. I don't think, because I think I was prepared for something that didn't happen, and then to try to kind of lower your expectations, but also stay mentally aware of what's going on, and it's out of your reach to do anything about it. I think was tough. I felt like the first San Jose game went really well up until last 5 minutes, 10 minutes of that game where we kind of ran away a little bit, and then obviously the second one wasn't great at all. But then after that, just having conversations with Bacher and with Freddie, and just kind of becoming a little bit more aware of what's going on, I felt like I've settled in better, and has been feeling really good last 3 games at least, and I think I'm in a better position now.
What was like the advice or message from one of those guys like Bacher or like Freddie or whatever that kind of got you kind of back to where you needed to be? Like, what was kind of the message or something, advice that they gave that kind of allowed you to kind of reset?
I think overall, just talking about the emotions and feelings around it. I think I had to open up and say what I felt about the situation, and I think they obviously needed to listen to what I had to say, but also maybe speak a little bit from their side and what they're seeing and feeling as well. And I think just doing that, we're only humans. We're gonna have to talk to each other to figure stuff out, and I think that just got my mindset maybe a little bit more dialed in as well, but also making or letting them know and making them aware of how I felt about the situation made it probably easier for them to as well to work with me kind of and knowing what I felt.
Like, it's interesting, like us as writers, we do these stories and we're like, what's the best thing for Jesper Wallstedt, right? We talk to other goalies who've been through 3 goalie rotations. You talk to guys who've been in your shoes of a top prospect getting a chance to be eventually a number 1. And there's a lot of different opinions on what's best for a guy. Is it better to be a number 1 in Iowa and play 60 games? Or is it better to be practicing with NHL players and playing every once in a while? Like, might as well just ask you, like, what do you think's, best for your development? Or what would you think you get the most out of you? Is it more so playing, having a net you have every week? Or is it something where, hey, I like practicing against Krill every day and being around these guys? Like, what's kind of a thing that's better, you think, for you? You get the most out of it?
I think it's very. I'd say both is very beneficial. I think you have to find something in between, because the quality of practice in the NHL you can't get in the AHL. The shooters like Kirill, Ecker, the way they get to the net, the way pucks come back, and just the quality you get from there you can't get down here. But you can also not just practice and rely on that without playing any games, because then when it's game time, you've lost all your momentum, the speed of the game, and the traffic, and the way weird situations happen that you can't really predict. That's stuff that you only can practice during games. So I think you need a little bit of both. I think you have to find a way to get that quality up, because when you get to the NHL, there's no secret. The shooters are better, the players are better, and you need to have the reps and quantity in practice with that quality, together with obviously not just sitting on the side when it's time for games. You're out of shape and you're not in your game form, because that's usually how goalies get hot. They play a lot of games and get into it, and they're having that feeling. They're in their bubble, usually people say, and that you can only get from games, I'd say. So it's a hard combination of the two, both, if you're asking for what my opinion is, and then everyone is always going to have their own opinions, and I can't affect what they want to think, but that's the way I feel.
It's the writers. We got to stop.
Oh, there's other people too. It's a bunch.
Yeah. You got 2 guys that are great in their own right, in Gus and Flower.
Yep.
But both very different playing style, both very different personalities. Like, what are some of the different things you've been able to learn from both of them?
Yeah, obviously, Flowers, there's just so much to learn from. There's not a single day where you don't look after what he's doing and just enjoy being in his surroundings. He's a great human being, and the way he competes in practice, and there's just so much good stuff. And then you also have Gus, who's been through the same goalie school kind of that I've gone through as well. There's so much technical stuff you can learn from him and look at, and we pretty much play almost the same game game style, and we have pretty much the same game plan, which is very useful to see as a young goalie coming up and seeing that works. And when you have a lot of technical questions, you maybe go to Gus and see what he feels about it. But when there's a lot of other stuff, you can always go to Fleury because he just has answers to everything, and maybe can crack you up a little bit too if that's what you need.
Do you kind of know what the plan is going forward? Do you have an idea when you're coming to come up next, or kind of just wait and see kind of how it goes as far as injuries up top? Like, do you have kind of a set, been told anything?
I have no idea, actually. I've been told a lot of different things, but it seems like it doesn't happen the way. But got to give credit to Gus too, the way he's been playing early as well. He's been super hot, and Flower as well. They're just, for them, it doesn't make sense either to move any of those guys out of the lineup to get me up there right now. The way they're playing, the way the team is playing too, like, wow, the start they've had. I kind of agree and see why they wouldn't make a change either at this moment. They're too good and too hot right now to probably try to make a change as well. But obviously, I have to be an ego sometimes too. I want to get up there. I want to play. I want to show off what I can. But you got to respect that as well.
What do you think of Gus's goal? And I know what is that moment like as a goalie? Like, you've had a couple. You had one in like junior, right? And you had one in the AHL. Like, what did you think watching that goal? And like, what's that like as a goalie to have that moment?
Oh, it's unreal. It's one of the best feelings. You could see it coming from a mile away too. Like, their player was in the blue line. There was no one close to Gus. All of their guys were just piled in the middle in that zone, and I still don't know why players dump the puck at goalies in the last seconds. Like, there's no reason. We're just gonna fire it away, and then you go for a goalie goal, and I was surprised by the speed he got on that puck too. Like, he wasn't coming down until the top circles of the other in their zone. Like, it's impressive to get it that far, and also finding the middle. So I was super glad for him, and I was watching the game as well, and it was super cool. I was pumped.
Well, it's going to come. Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
There's no video of your first goal, right? Like, what do you remember most about your first goal?
I just remember in my hometown, all my friends were there watching. My family was there. I was 14 or 14, I think, and I was playing with 19 and 18 years old people. And I remember before, because I was so young, so you can't use in that league, in the under 20 league, the goalies can use the cat eye, the cage for the helmet. But me being 14, obviously I can't use it because I'm too young. But I used it anyway, because who's gonna figure out? And apparently they figured out. So they told the refs to switch my helmet, and I always carried a backup just in case if it would happen. So they switched my helmet. I got the square pattern cage instead, and I scored a goal, and they throw out my cat eye mask on the ice after the goal. Kind of like an insult to the other team. Like, it doesn't matter what you guys are trying to do. That's one of the funniest memories about that one.
Did you do the fist bumps in the line? Did you do the fist bumps like Gus did? Did you go?
Yeah. So it was from there too. So after the fist bump, the backup goalie took my helmet with the cat eye on and just threw it out to the middle, to the face up circle. So my mask was laying there, and I hoped it pissed him off a little bit.
I love that so much. Now, for you, what in the NHL would be cooler, getting a goalie goal or winning a goalie fight?
Oh, I like both. I like them a lot. No, I'd want a goalie goal though.
Okay.
But I wouldn't be afraid to fight too. It would be fun.
A couple of questions left for you before I let you go, and thanks so much for doing this. Your favorite Flower moment you've had with him, your favorite Flower thing that you've seen or heard, or just kind of just being around the team more, obviously in camp too, or last year. What was your favorite Flower moment?
I think overall, I'm always going to come back to doing my NHL debut with Flower backing me up. I think that's something I'm gonna tell my kids when I grow up, and people around me, just like, okay, you guys remember Marc-Andre Fleury, and they're like, yeah, he's such a superstar, like he was a legend, he's a Hall of Fame. Yeah, he actually backed me up for my first NHL start, and it's pretty surreal, and I can't believe it. It's super cool.
And he gave you some advice too. He helped you calm down too, didn't he? A little bit.
Yeah, no, he was awesome the whole day, and during the game, and super supportive. He's awesome.
The last one from us. Obviously, how good's your golf game? Like, are you actually pretty good? Like, I think every hockey player that people think they're great golfers, right? Just natural. Like, I wasn't sure, are you one of those guys that are natural golfer, or are you?
I'd say I'm pretty good. I'd say I'd like to shoot around 80 when I go out. That's my target. I played a lot when I was young. I took a lot of lessons when I was probably around 10 years old, and then for some reason, I told my dad I'd never want to play golf again. I didn't like it, but I got a good structure on my swing and everything when I was young, and then I picked it up at the COVID year and started to play again, and I feel like I've dialed it in again, and I enjoy it so much. Like, I could go play golf every day if I got to decide.
Man, I did the same thing as you, except when I picked it back up, none of it. Now I'm just at the point where it's like, I'm not going to go out and just be like the absolute worst on the course.
Yeah.
So I just don't really play very much now.
No, my dad, he was like, you got to take lessons again now so you can get a swing back. Nope, I'm teaching myself. If anything, I'm not paying for lessons. I'm not getting lessons. I'm a professional athlete. I should know how to how to play golf.
Yeah, and that's less gifts you get to send over to the niece and nephew, right?
Yep.
Final question, brought to you as always by our good friends at Waggle Golf. First, make sure you head over to getyourwaggleon.com, throw in promo code SP10 to take 10% off your entire order. Who would make up your dream golf foursome? So 3 guys you want to go out and golf with. It could be celebrity, athlete, dead or alive, you name it. Who are the 3?
I'd go with Cillian Murphy, who plays
that's a great answer.
Tommy in Peaky Blinder. I'll go with Henrik Lundqvist.
Okay.
Figured.
And yeah, that was pretty obvious. And then I'd go with Rory McIlroy.
Okay.
That's a good spread. And honestly, you're the first one to say Cillian Murphy, and that might be one of my favorite answers we've gotten so far. He's so cool. That's
my favorite actor, and I love Peaky Blinders. I've watched it probably 3 times now, and it's just the best show ever.
So good. They're supposed to be bringing it back.
Yep. One last movie, I think. I hope it's gonna be good.
It needs to be.
Well, thank you so much for doing this, getting out of the rain there and doing it for us. But I appreciate you, and we'll look forward to seeing you up in St. Paul sometime soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was awesome.